Hey everyone, I've just started the broadcast, but we'll wait a little bit more because a number of people have subscribed, and I think we'll just give them a bit more time to jump on. And if you see me, looking around, it's because I'm looking at the chat, and I'm just also making sure that we have more people coming on. So just bear with me. Just before we kick off, if you want to in the chat, just write where you're from, and also were you at the last training session? It'd be great to to see who has returned, because the last session was awesome. It was really cool how interactive it was, and got some great feedback on the email. So hopefully you enjoyed it. Some of the feedback that I got from the last session was that people wanted to see some more advanced stuff. So that is exactly what we're going to do today. We're going to go we're going to step it up a level. Basically, we're going to skip over some of the more introductory parts and then go into more advanced DAX formula and how you can incorporate a range of different techniques to do some really great analysis. So hopefully that's what you have come along to learn and to see. So if not, please let me know in the chat. And as I mentioned in the last training, I'm open to discuss lots of things. It really depends what you want. So just don't hesitate to put things in the chat and let me know. Okay, so we've got a few people now, which is cool. And so what I might do is I might start off. First things to mention is that this is recorded. So there will be a recording that will be sent out post the session, but certainly that doesn't mean just wait for that recording, because through this live session, I guess you get an opportunity to actually ask questions, and we can actually go into things specifically. So there's a real benefit to that if you want to find out anything specific as we work through it. Now, in the last session, we went over some of the more introductory things to Power BI, I would say. So things like bringing data into your model, how a data model is structured, and the relationships that you need to build between tables. And then we went over how to create a measured table, and then how to create some DAX formula. So hopefully you all found that beneficial. Today, as I mentioned just before, we're really going to step it up a level. And I'm really going to showcase you how powerful DAX can be, really. How powerful DAX can, what you can do with DAX to really extract some really awesome insight in your analysis, and also visualize it in a really compelling way. What I would say is that maybe not everything is going to make sense in terms of what we do with DAX right up front, but don't worry, because in a lot of cases, they are just techniques that you can use over and over again, and you're going to get the model that we develop on sent out post the session, so you can just revise and try and integrate them into your own models. And also, learning DAX doesn't happen overnight, and it does take a bit of time to understand. So don't be too concerned if it doesn't all make sense. What I really want to showcase here is just how awesome it is, how you can do some seriously great stuff in Power BI by utilizing DAX. Okay, so what I'm going to try and do differently is I'm going to maybe try and switch between showing the screen and also coming back and having a chat about things. We'll see how we go. And it looks like Sergio's come in at midnight, which is pretty cool in Portugal. But again, I just want to try and make it as interactive as possible. So don't hesitate to send in a question on chat, and I'll see if I can evaluate it at the time. If not, we can always come back to it at the end. Cool. Okay, so let me just turn over to the screen now and show you what we're actually going to be developing today. Just give me 1 second whilst I set this up. Some of the techniques that we're actually going to go into today include some of the more specific things we're going to go into include things like parameter tables. Parameter tables are really cool. They're how you can really extend your models in your analysis. We're going to go over how you can create dynamic visuals, how you can use multiple fact tables. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to analyze sales information versus inventory information. And so this is a really common real world scenario, and it really showcases quite a few things in terms of what you can, what you can achieve. And then we're going to go into measure branching, and then at the end, if we've got time, row level security. So that's when you actually build a security model on top of your data model, your core data model. Okay, so just let me switch over here 1 second. How does that sound, everyone? Is that what is everyone happy with the things we're going to cover today? If not, just let me know. But we're going to cover a lot, and I actually don't know how long this is going to take. It could take 45 minutes. It could take an hour and a half. I'm happy with either. I just want to make sure that I showcase all of these really cool things because I think they're really beneficial to learn. Okay, 1 second. We've got Chris in from, looks like Canberra, from the Bearer. That's pretty cool. Okay, so hopefully now, and Brazil, very cool, very cool. A really international group today. We've got from Russia as well. Really cool. Okay, so what we are looking at here, so this is actually a very similar data set to what we used last time. It is basically the same data set, but it does have a small difference because we're integrating another table. But what we're doing here is we are utilizing a few techniques. First of all, we've got a whole range of metrics here. So, for instance, this is sales, this is profits, we've got some margin information here. But what I've set up here is this amazing way that you can. It's -4 degrees in Canberra. That's pretty darn cold. So what you can do here is you can dynamically. So the trick here is that dynamically you can change what is inside a visual. You can change what's inside all of these metrics. So up here, we might want to, this is retail sales information. So we might want to look at it over, say, 7 days, 14 days, or we might want to look at it over a long time frame, but we can do it dynamically. So check this out. Say I wanted to look at my sales and my profits and my margins over 7 days. I just click 7 days there. And then I can go to 14 days if I want. I can go to 30 days, I can go to 180 days, so on and so forth. So it's really, really dynamic. And I love this technique. And there's a range of bits, and by going through how you actually do this technique, there's a range of learnings, heaps of learnings that you can get. So that's why I've chosen to do that. So, say for instance, really quickly we want to say, let's look at 90 days, and then we can evaluate, well, this is what's happened over the last 90 days. We can see the trend in sales. Same with profit margins, etc. We can see from highest to lowest how our profit margins are going in that, in all of those different counties and all of those different regions. So as I say, as we develop this, heaps of really cool techniques that we can utilize. So looking forward to going through those. Now, the other piece of insight we're going to look at here is inventory. Okay, so the key thing or the key takeaway here is that this inventory information actually comes in from a totally different table. Because if you think about it, the sales information you have is actually really different to what inventory information you have. They'll generally be in 2 different databases, 2 different data sources. So I'm going to show you how you can incorporate information from sales and compare it to inventory, because they're 2 very related things, and you want to be optimizing your inventory for how much you're actually selling, for example. And so what I've done in this type of analysis is I've built in some relatively advanced logic to work out, have we got too much inventory or too less inventory based on sales that we may make. And in this case, I've analyzed things like I've analyzed sales over time, and I'm saying, well, if we made exactly those same sales, is the total inventory as of today enough to supply that? And that's really, really good insight from a retail site perspective, if you think about it. And again, this is all dynamic. And so the key there, if we look into the data model, that you'll see is this inventory table. So we've got this is exactly a very similar model, well, basically exactly the same as our last session, but instead of just having sales here, we've actually got this inventory table, right? And we now need to work out, well, how can we get information from here and compare it to sales information? So we've got sales happening all the time. Inventory is really just a timestamp at any point in time. It could be, it could be monthly information, it could be weekly information, so on and so forth. But it's totally separate table. And so if we just have a quick look at the table here, you'll see here that for every single location, we go through every single product, and it says how much stock is actually left over. So how much stock is actually on site, for example. So this might update every day, every week, so on and so forth. Okay, so that's going to take up quite a bit of time. Honestly, there's a lot we can cover here, but trust me, all of these techniques combined, all of these insights are a combination of techniques. And as I said earlier, it might not make 100. You might not totally understand every minute detail of DAX or techniques that we go into, but there's some reusable components, and also it's just great to see how all of these combine to show you, to showcase what you can achieve with DAX, because it's really amazing. It's all about opening your mind up to imagining what to evaluating what you actually can achieve. Cool. Okay, so the plan now is to just start rebuilding this. Basically, I'm going to start from scratch, and we're going to rebuild this during the session. So hopefully we can get through a lot of it. I think we can. And then obviously we can divert if you have some quite specific questions. So just on the chat, is everyone happy with that? Everyone really interested in figuring out or finding out how you can actually develop insight like this? Just let me know as I just set things up here. So I'm just going to move this to the side. Just give me 1 second. Cool. Okay. So now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to check the data model. So I've integrated the inventory information here. Now, before the key thing that I just want to just quickly touch upon here, because it is important, is that in our inventory table, if we look at our inventory table, you'll see that we've got location and we've got product here, right? Now, this is great because obviously we have these two tables. We have a location table and we have a product table. And so what we can do is we can now connect via relationships these two lookup tables to our inventory table. And now when we now want to do some analysis and we want to filter on something with our product, if a filter is placed on our product table, not only is it going to filter our sales table, it's also going to filter our inventory table, because both of these have relationships to this table. And that's one of the key things when you have multiple fact tables, is that you want to find some central lookup table that can filter both of them. And then when we create DAX formula, we might count up sales, but we might also count up inventory. But we can now utilize both those measures together and filter them by something in this lookup table. And so that's basically the key to fact tables. And remember, in the last session, I mentioned that to try as much as possible to set things up like this, where you have lookup tables up the top and your fact tables down the bottom. This is even more relevant. I mean, the reason why I do that even when it's simple is because when you start getting more complex data models, this is exactly how you want to do it, because it is so much easier to read when you have multiple fact tables that are linked up to all of the different lookup tables. It's much easier to read or understand how these flow when it's set up like this. Okay, so I've currently got no measures in here. We are starting from scratch, okay? And so what I'm going to do is just set up exactly how I would do it, okay? How I would start from the word go. Now I'm just going to create first create a title. Let's get this in here, sales performance. I like to put it on Arial Black just to set the scene here. This is what we're analyzing. And then I'm going to start creating some simple measures. Now, if you remember, I'm going to create a measure table. So because I like to put all my measures inside of there, and you do that by going into data. I'm just going to do some of these things a bit quicker. Call it key measures, and that's going to create just a table with nothing in it. And then inside of here, I'm going to create a measure called total sales. And this one is, I'm going to go sum x sales, then I'm going to go quantity times the related price, so current price. So we went over this in the last one, so I don't want to go too much over it today, if that's okay. And then once I've done that, I can hide that column and then click in and out, and now I have my measure table on the right hand side here. Now, so I've got total sales, so obviously I can now see what the total sales are, and if I wanted to look at this over time, I could then create a table. I could create a table here. Just give me a second. So if we wanted to look at this over time, we've got this information and we can just set it up like so. Now, the next thing we want to do is we actually want profits as well. So obviously what we're going to do there is first of all find total costs, and then we can work out our profits, obviously, right? And so if you remember last time, to create total costs, all I did was I did a copy and paste of total sales, and then I went total costs like so. And then it's all in the same table here. And so all I've got to do is go product cost. And it's exactly the same type of calculation. It's just a slightly different, it's going to find a slightly different metric to go run that calculation by. Okay, so now I've got total costs. And now that I've got those, I can do my first measure branching, utilize the measure branching technique. I'm going to go total profits. And then all I've got to do is total sales minus total costs. Now, this is really key concept, measure branching. And this is where you can create measures without referencing anything in tables, right? You can just use measures inside of measures. And this is really, really important because when you're just starting out in Power BI, and when I started out learning DAX as well, and having to try and understand the data model, you always default to going back to the fact table, and you would probably think, okay, well, here's a sales table. I better whack on another column here to get my total costs, or I might need to whack on another column to get my total profits and my profit margins, etc. You don't need to do that. You absolutely do not need to do that. You just use the DAX formula wherever you can, and you can see here that all of these calculations are being done virtually, and that's the power of DAX. And so now I've got total profits, and I'm just going to put this down into another visualization, and I'm going to sub out my sales and put in my profits. Cool. So now I've got my total profits there. And then what other things we can do? So we've got, already we can do quite a lot of stuff, right? And hopefully you can, and this is what we touched on last time, was, you can achieve so much so quickly because of DAX and the power of the data model. So if I wanted to look at, say, product information, I could grab my product name, and then I could say, okay, well, let's have a look at sales. Let's have a look at sales per product name. And then I can just sort by total sales. And then we might want to actually look at sales by customer name as well. And so I'm just going to go grab my customer name and put it into the axis. So now I've got total sales by customer name. And then lastly, what we might want to do is also look at profit margins per, in the example, it's by county, right? And so if you think about it, we've got all the information there we need to do that. So I'm going to go percent profit margins, and go divide, and then I'm going to go total profits divided by, or comma, total sales. And then all I've got to make sure to do is turn that into a percentage. And I'm going to grab my county here. And instead of that, what I want to do is I want to look at it by profit margin. Cool. Okay, so we are starting to look pretty good here, right? The last thing we might want to do is we might want to, and look, this isn't finished yet. Obviously, I'm just showing you how quickly you can get this together. But there's obviously we need to integrate this dynamic visualization layer, which I want to showcase to you. So just give me 1 second whilst I sort this one out. And what we can also do here is just add some data labels. So let's do that. Okay, so the other thing we might want to do is we might want to look at sales. We might want to look at sales over by, let's have a look here. Let's have a look by where our location is. So I'm just going to go latitude and longitude here. Now I'm just going to do some small adjustments to make sure these all fit in. Any questions so far? Haven't had a question from the virtual room yet, so just let me know. Just let me know. Hopefully, is everyone comfortable getting up to this point? How does everyone feel about getting to this point? Is this something that everyone is happy that they could achieve? Just let me know. Okay, cool. So it's starting to look relatively compelling, right? It's starting to look pretty cool. But now, if you think but I think it can be made better. Obviously, we can filter by dates here, but we might want to filter by something a bit more customized, like in the example where we actually filter, and I'll just bring it in to show you, where we actually filter by this dynamic date period. I just love this technique. It's seriously awesome. Now, to do that, we don't have this customized at the moment. We don't have this customized field in our data model. And so we need to actually create it. We need to create it and then write some logic to actually incorporate it in. So how do you do that? And this is a combination of a parameter table technique, but also dynamic visuals. So you can utilize both of them in together. So the way we do it is we need to create a table that will create that slicer for us at the top. So I'm going to enter data here, and I'm going to call this, just give me 1 second. I'm going to call this table date ranges. And then within that table, I'm going to have one column called count time frame. And this is where I'm going to put 7 days, 14 days, 30 days, 90 days, 180 days, and 360 days. Okay, and then I'm going to actually put in, because this is going to be a text field, so I've actually got to put a numeric field in here stating how long that time frame actually is. And so I go 180. So this is all you got to do. So this is all you got to do to get this in, and I'm going to go load. Now, the key thing to remember, first of all, you've got to go to the data model first. Always go to the data model first. And the key thing to remember here is that this parameter table has no relationship to this at all. So there's no relationship to draw or to create between anything there. It just sits out by itself on the side. It's like another name I like to call it is a supporting table, because it just supports the analysis that you're doing versus actually being within the core data model. Okay, so now that we've got this date ranges table in here, what we can do, first of all, what we've got to do is, first of all, we've got to make sure that this is actually sorted. So the way you sort this, and we're going to sort it by this days column here. The way you sort it is, up in modeling, you go sort by the column you want to sort by. So I'm just going to do that. And then now when I actually drag this into my into the canvas here, you'll see that it's now in order. And what we want to do is we want to turn it into a slicer, like so. And then we will just want to make a few adjustments to the slicer. We want to turn it into a horizontal. First, we want to go horizontal, and then I want to get rid of the header. Okay, so we're getting there. We're getting there. This is how you set it. And this is, I'm not sure if any of you have watched many YouTube videos on Enterprise DNA TV, but this technique is exactly the same for when you want to run scenario analysis or what if analysis, which is, again, seriously awesome techniques you can use in Power BI. But it's very, very, very similar. What we're doing here is we're integrating a table and then trying to harvest or capture a selection that we're making and then get some value from that selection. And so what I'm gonna do is just turn this into a color so we can actually see it a bit clearer. Cool, okay, so now we have this slicer, right? We have this slicer that we can then select, and then, but we want this to determine what our visuals show. At the moment, it's doing nothing because we've got no calculation running on and saying which selection we have, and also there's no integration into our data model yet. So we need to create it. We're going to create it through measures. Now, the first thing we need to do is we need to figure out what is the number of days. What is the number of days for the selection, right? So the way we do that is we create a measure. We create a measure. We go. We want to call this. We want to call this measure. Just give me a second whilst we want to call this days selected. And we're going to go. We're going to go values. We're going to go values. In this case, days. And you'll see here that this is going to the date ranges table and figuring out and then saying how many what days actually are left over if there's a selection. And so if I go, we're not finished on this formula yet, but I just want to show you a couple of techniques. So if I create that and then bring that into a card here, you will see that this is actually giving us a number. It's actually giving us 30. For every selection we make here, it changes, right? And so this is cool. This is the start of what we need. But there is an issue here. There is an issue. The issue stems from, sorry, I just need to grab a bit of water. The issue stems from if nothing is selected. Check this out. If I select nothing, it gets this error. We need to get rid of this error, or we need to figure out a way that, or be able to put in a value if there is an error. Okay, so what we might want to do is maybe put some generic variable like 1,000 days or something, because that will capture a whole lot more information, or capture all the information we might want to see. So what we're going to do is we're going to change this up with some quite simple logic. We're going to go if has one value, and we're going to go time frame. So if, and what has one value does is it goes and works out if you've made a selection. So in this case, we're going if has one value, then equal to the days. If not, let's just put in some random value which accumulates to quite a number of days, and we're going to put 1,000 in there. Cool. Okay, so now we will not receive an error if nothing is selected or if more than one is selected. So so we will always get some calculation. Now, cool. Okay, so we're getting there. We're getting there. Now, it's a bit of a bugger, Chris. I'm just looking at your chat message there. Yeah, look, I think you'd probably be all right to just carry on, Chris. I wouldn't be too worried. You'll still learn heaps. But yeah, might just have to have a look at the replay later on. There will be a replay, and then also I'll be sending out this model as well, so you'll be able to work through, or at least look at the finished result as you're actually watching it through, which I'm convinced will be of real benefit to you guys. Okay, so now we need to create some logic, right, that integrates this number into our calculation, because we want now for these visuals to change based on the days that we have selected. Okay, so this is how we do it. So I want to work out total sales, but I only want to see total sales for the last 14 days. So we're going to use calculate here, and to work in this logic. I'm going to go sales over time period with us, and I'm going to go calculate total sales, because I still want to calculate total sales, but I only want to calculate total sales for whatever time period that sits within the last 14 days. Now, the way we do that is we go filter. We go filter, and then we're going to filter the dates table here. And I'm going to say, well, if the date, what filter does, it's an iterating formula, and it iterates through the entire table that you specify there. So we're going to iterate through the entire table, and we're going to say if the actual date is equal to or greater than, switch that around, greater than or equal to today minus the days selected, and which is double ampersand, the date is less than or equal to today, then it's going to return total sales. Okay. So check this out. If I now, so now we've got this measure, right? We've got this measure, which is calculating total sales, but via this filter function, we're filtering out every day that doesn't sit between today back 14 days. We're filtering them totally out, and we're only going to calculate total sales for those days. And so I'm going to bring in total sales, sales over time period in here, and you'll see now that this is only showing 14 days of information. Looks like it's maybe actually showing a tiny bit more, maybe 1 day extra there. So it looks like, what it looks like is we probably wanted to, instead of going greater than equals to, we want to go just greater than. I think that's 14, yeah. And so now if I change this, you'll see that that's a dynamic visual now, which is changing for our selection. It's a pretty awesome technique, isn't it? And I mean, I didn't even think you could. I do not know how you would achieve this in Excel. It'd be very, very difficult. And we were able to do that relatively quickly, right? All we've got to know, all we have to do is just integrate a little bit of logic. Okay, and now the coolest part is that we have all of this information here, but we want to then create dynamic visuals out of all of it. If you think about it though, we've got all of the techniques to make this happen. We've got the technique or the pattern is here. And so if I want to look at total profits over this time, all I've got to do is copy this and then paste it in again and go total profits. All I've done is, and then I'll go change the title. I'm going to go profits over time period, and go enter. And then instead of total profits here, I'm going to put my profits over time period instead. And so now that's a dynamic visual too. And then again, all I've got to do is integrate my sales over time period into this visualization. Same again for my total sales by customer name. And so I'm going to integrate that one in there too. And then obviously profit margins as well. So I'm going to, again, just copy and paste this measure. And I'm going to go profit, I'm going to call this profit margins over time period. And I'm going to integrate my profit margins measure. And I'm going to put that inside of there. This one needs to be a percentage. Okay, and then again, we want to sub in sales over time period in here. And then I'm going to delete that. Okay, so who has everyone been able to follow that? Please just let me know in the chat. I see Kiran thinks it's great. Yeah, look, I totally agree. I think this is one of my favorite techniques in Power BI, just how dynamic and how dynamic it is to actually extract this sort of insight. And look, this technique, this is just not, you can use this technique so many different ways. This is just one way. Dynamic visuals is possible. You can create dynamic visuals a number of different ways, or analyzing a number of different things. You really can have multiple reports within the one report page. It's just all about how you set it up. It's all about opening your mind up about how you can actually set things up in Power BI. A couple of the other things I might do here just quickly is I like to make these titles a bit clearer, because it's quite hard to actually see what these are, with that sort of color. Oh, I've got another, that's cool, that's great. And so I'm just going to make these a bit bigger so we can see what they're actually saying. Okay, so now the last thing we want to do to clean this one up is that we want to just create some cards. I think cards are a really great way to showcase like summary information, or information, an overview of information. And so what we might do is we will got to make sure that you actually make sure that the data types are correct, obviously. And so I'm just going to go sales over time period, and then we got profits over time period. And what we're going to do is also look at profit margins. And so I just need to change the data type of this one. Cool. Okay. Okay, so now we basically have a pretty awesome dashboard here, or pretty awesome report page if you think about it. So now if I wanted to look at 7 days, really short-term information, just select there, and so on and so forth. So really awesome insight. You've obviously got, obviously you can look at 30 days, but if you want to look at a specific product as well, you can then select that visualization there. It's just a matter of changing up the interactions like so. So there's so many different ways you can actually look at this information. Say over the last 180 days, you wanted to look at the top four products sold, how they actually sold through time. That's how you get to that insight. So pretty easy stuff. How does everyone feel with that technique? Is this a technique that they feel they could utilize today, on some of the reporting that you're currently doing? Just let me know. Any questions? Any questions on that? Any thoughts or any ideas around how you could actually extend this? Cool. Okay. Please just, if you have a question, just pop it in, and we can go over it. Cool. That's great, Kieran. Okay, so I'm also going to change this. I just like to do a few of these tidy up things as well. Just want to make it as clear as day in terms of what we're actually analyzing here. So if someone came to this report page now, they should, in theory, know what is going on. If they wanted to look at 30 days of information, they can select 30 days, and obviously they're going to see, well, here are our customer sales over the last 30 days. And here are our profit margins, so on and so forth. Cool. Okay. So unless anyone else wants to touch on anything there, I'm just going to move on to the next technique, some inventory analysis, and how you can, again, how you can combine a number of things in terms of techniques to do some pretty awesome analysis. Okay, so we're going to now create some inventory insights. So this is where this inventory table comes into play, where we got these multiple fact tables. So I'm going to create a new page, and again, we can just copy and paste some of the things from our existing page, and I'm going to go, I'm going to call this inventory insights. And I'm just going to rename the page. I'll call it Inventory Insights. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do here, is we need to make a decision. We need to decide, well, in terms of inventory, what is a good time frame to analyze inventory over, or how much inventory do you feel that we need to see if we are optimizing our inventory levels, for example. Now, what I've done here, and this is totally, this is just making it up. This could be very scenario dependent or business dependent. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, well, I feel like 180 days is a time frame, which is quite relevant here. So I'm going to say, well, it's important for us to have at least 180 days worth of stock, for example. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, at the page level, I'm only going to look at 180 days here. So when we're analyzing sales and we're saying, well, how much sales? So 180 days worth of sales. We're looking at 180 days worth of sales. We should have enough stock, or we should have enough inventory to supply that, for example. So in some cases, that's going to be far too long. If you're in a retail store, you probably want far less. The more inventory you just have sitting there, the worse it's going to be for you, or you're going to have so much cash tied up in all your stock. But just as an example, we're going to stick to 180 days. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create some measures here, but instead of over the sales table, I'm going to do them over the inventory table, so we can see how much inventory we have for just sitting in certain locations. So if we look at the inventory table, if I just do a quick look at the inventory table, you'll see that we've got the stock quantity. We've got the stock quantity column. So it's not a difficult calculation. All we are going to be doing is summing up this but. And we're not just going to sum up the quantity. What we're going to do is we're going to look at the value, right? So the dollar value. And we can work out the dollar value, because if we come to our product table, so you see this product ID, this is connected to our product table, and our product table has the actual cost here. So we can work out, in terms of a dollar figure, how much inventory we have in any, just in general, and when we put the correct filters in place, we will be able to actually see how much dollar value of inventory we hold at different sites. So to do that, I'm going to create a new measure, and I'm going to call this inventory value. I'm going to go SumX inventory. I'm going to look at the inventory table, and then for every single row in the inventory table, I'm going to go quantity. I'm going to go stock quantity times by the related cost, the product cost. I'm going to look up to that cost table via this related function, and I'm going to times every single quantity by what it cost us to buy it in. And then, so if I bring inventory value into here, we can see, well, we've got about looks like 8.6 million of inventory currently sitting in stock, which is quite substantial if you think about it. And then I've just got to make sure we format this correctly. Now I want to look at, okay, so for every single location, every single county, how much stock do we actually have? And remember, this is just stock on hand based on the data that we have. There's no time frame selection over this. This is just a flat out, how much inventory do we have? So if I just added some data labels, so you can see here that obviously some have way more inventory than others. And look, this can be for a variety of reasons. Maybe this is a bigger store, maybe they have more sales. But if you think about it, right, all of these questions that I'm proposing, we can answer because we have built them into our data model. And that's a really, really cool thing, right? A really, really cool thing. Okay, so obviously we're looking at by county here, but I might also, in this case, want to look at it by state. So all I'm going to do is copy and paste that. I'm going to find my state and put it up into there. And then now if I wanted to, I can click on Florida, and I can just see and I can really quickly see, well, what is the stock in each of our different states. So I love how quickly you can get to that insight. Okay, so here comes the cool part. Now what we're going to do is we're going to compare our stock levels, or the stock that we have on hold for each individual product. And we're going to compare it to how much we have sold in the last 180 days, because we want to make sure that we have enough stock in each of these different products to supply if those sales occur, right? So how do we do it? How do we do it? Well, we've already got all the information we need. Actually, no, we don't. We need to add just another calculation here, a really simple calculation. Instead of inventory value, what we want is we want to go total. We want to go inventory quantity here. So it's something. This is really simple, just the sum of the quantity column, right? Because that's what we have, a quantity column. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, to showcase what we're doing here, I'm going to just create a table. I'm going to create a table of information. I'm going to look at our product like so. This is all our different products. And I'm going to bring in my inventory value measure. So this is going to show, you see these, actually no, so not inventory value. We need inventory quantity. So you see here that we have a number for every single product. We have an inventory value for every single product. And now if we bring in sales over time period, we're going to also see, well, how many sales did we make over the last 180 days? Actually, sorry, I've just realized that this should be quantity. We need quantity over time period. So what I'm going to do to create this really quickly is, again, I'm just going to copy that there. I'm going to go to new measure, and I'm going to paste it, and I'm going to go quantity. And instead of a measure here, I'm just going to go sum quantity of the sales table. So that's how quickly you can, I just realized I needed to instead use the quantity in terms of the sales. I was really quickly able to get that. And then I'm going to put in my quantity over time period. So you think about it. This logic here, this sum especially, is looking at the sales table. It's coming to the data model and it's saying count up the quantity column, this column here, in the sales table. And then, but this inventory quantity is actually coming to this table, right? And it's counting up the quantity in this table. But we're able to bring these two together because of this relationship, which is, because of this relationship, which is linked up to the product table. You see how this line flows all the way down to the inventory table, and also this relationship here. So this relationship joins up the product table to the sales table here. And so when we filter by product name, which we have in this table, it then flows down this one, and that's how we're able to now compare. We're able to compare them in the same table. And really, it's the same visualization if you think about it. So because I can turn this into a visualization, and I might just sort this by total inventory. So now I can put these into a visualization, and really quickly we can see, well, this is how much inventory we have based on how much we sold over the last 190 days. So potentially you could say, well, these ones have way too much inventory for how much we've sold. Whether that's right or not, there could be seasonality, there could be a whole range of different things that you've got to think about, but that's how, we can really quickly see, well, this one looks like it's well stocked, for example. Some of these look well stocked while some of them don't. And so this is just a way you can really quickly see that. And now what we're going to do now is we're actually going to write some logic which actually tells us. It actually tells us based on some logic we write if it's overstocked and if it's understocked. And then that could be, that could be almost like an alert that you create for yourself in Power BI that tells you, okay, well, we better go and stock these products right now, because it looks like we're not going to be able to have enough stock. We're going to miss out on sales if we don't bring the stock in right now. The other reason why you sometimes want a bit of lead time is because sometimes it can actually take a long time to get stock, right? And so you have to be able to forecast your stock levels quite far out. And this is again where this analysis is just so valuable. I mean, the value you can create with this analysis is just unreal. Because you can even integrate. Well, how much time do we need to give ourselves to actually bring in this stock based on its shipping date? Based on a shipping date from supplier. Okay, so now that we've done that, we can visualize this in a different way as well. This is another visualization that I like to do here, is that we might want to also look at total inventory quantity, for example, but we might also want to compare that to sales over time and look at each individual product. So we'll just find product name. And so here we can quickly see what are our most important products by going sales. So I'll just go, no, actually that's quantity. And here, if I just change this visualization up a bit, so I want to, sometimes you've just got to play around with these a little bit. So category label. So that one looks a little bit busy, but you can drill it down a little bit more if you think about it, because you can click through the different counties and you can see, well, what products are most important to us, and how much inventory do we have based on what we sold. So the concern would be in this visualization if you had a lot of sales but not much inventory. So for instance, in this county, in Fairfield County, product 45, there would be a bit of a concern there, because you've only got an inventory of 3, but you sold 9 over the past 180 days. And so that's some pretty cool insight, right? And obviously this one's good as well, because if you think about it, you can click through all the different counties and you can see if it's overstocked or understocked, so on and so forth. Okay, cool. So how's everyone feel about that? I haven't had a question for a while, so I'm concerned that we're losing a bit of engagement. So just let me know. Let me know if there's any questions here, or you're happy just watching and seeing how you can put it all together. Okay, so now what we want to do, we want to add a bit more logic in here. We want to add a bit more logic. I want to now add some. I want to add some additional. I want to build this logic in, right? I want to build this logic in that tells me for every product, based on whatever context we have on, is, so for instance, if we're looking at a specific county, or if we're looking just at everything, what is, okay, Kieran, your focus, that's great. So what's overstocked and what's understocked? So, okay, now let's create a table. I like to create a table here. So I'm going to create a table down the bottom here. Now, to write in some logic, and this is just an example of how in depth you can get, or how you can customize things. Sorry, there's a better way to put it. How you can customize things. I'm going to create a new measure here. And I'm going to use what's called a switch statement. So I'm going to go inventory logic here, and I'm going to go switch. I'm going to go switch true. And this is another really cool technique that you can use quite a bit. Now the logic, what I'm going to go is I'm going to go, well, if total inventory, right? If total inventory, or if quantity, if the inventory quantity is less than the quantity sold over time period, what does that mean? That means to me that we need to restock this, because if our inventory levels aren't covering what we sold in the past 180 days, then obviously we're going to have to get more in to make sure we can supply. Sales could obviously change based on the next into the future. But in this case, this is just how we're going to write logic. And so I'm saying, well, if that is the case, then I want to restock it. I actually want to create an alert which tells me that this needs to be restocked. And then I'm going to say, well, if, and then alternatively to that, I'm going to say, well, if the inventory quantity is greater than or equal to the quantity sold times by 3. So if we have way more, so what this is doing, I'm saying, well, if I have way more quantity based on the inventory that we have, then I'm going to say this is overstocked. And guess what we could do with this insight? We could, in theory, go and look through and see which areas are overstocked versus restocked for any individual product, and we could transfer around. We could optimize our inventory by transferring around those that have too much stock to those that don't. So think about how your optimization strategies for that. Then I'm just going to put a blank in here. Cool. So now we have this logic, and I'm going to bring it into my table down here. And what I can do is, I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger so we can see it. And so now, right now, looks like across everyone, it looks like we've only got overstocked values here. But what I also want to do is I also want to have my table actually show me some of this information. So inventory value and inventory quantity. And so now check this out. Now, if we go and change the context of this calculation, say for instance, we want to select Broward County, we can really quickly see, check this out, we can really quickly see it now through this logic works out, okay, what are we saying is overstocked versus what are we saying is needs restocking. And I can quickly jump through into any of our different retail sites in our counties, or I could look at any of our different states, for example, and I can quickly see what needs restocking and what doesn't. So hopefully we've gone over a lot there, but I just wanted to showcase there, right, how what insight you can get, what great insight that you can get just from setting some simple things up like this. All we've done is we've integrated our inventory table, and think about all the insight that we can get here. We can work out, very quickly based on thresholds or levels that we put into our logic, what where our sales are versus our inventory, and this is live information that we could gather insight from. And so that actually rounds off all of the stuff I wanted to showcase today. There's lots of other cool things that you could do here and things that you could clean up. Like the one that I would clean up straight away is actually these titles. So try and make these titles quicker. Well, thanks, Tom. Appreciate the feedback. And then so I would just change a few of these things up. Oh, no, I don't want that. And I've got a question. Can you change the period to 30 days from Sergio? Absolutely can. Check this out. I mean, if I wanted to, all I had to do would be to turn this into a more dynamic filter. And look, all of a sudden the levels change, right? The levels change. Now you might want to change some of your inner logic up, because the way that I set this up in terms of the data set, it just made sense to put 180 days. But if you wanted to test this out, right? If you wanted to dynamically test this out, all of the logic is built in here. So it's just a matter of figuring out, well, what is most optimal for the business, because that number can change if you think about it, depending on your sales velocity. Sometimes, if you're as a retail site selling a hell of a lot of stuff really quickly, then obviously you want to make sure this is a shorter term time frame. But things might slow in the winter months or something, and then you might want to have a longer time frame. So this is how you would, I guess, set up the technique. There's a range of different optimizations that you could run over this. This is just not something that you would probably statically just sit with. You'd want to make sure that this is far more optimized. So if I just make a few more updates here. One of the other awesome things actually, we're going to go over row level security. So we're not done yet. I just wanted to tidy up a few additional things in here. Cool. Okay, so now we've got I guess we're humming along here. We've got a lot of information. What was I going to say? Row level security was what I wanted to go over. Was what I wanted to go over next. Oh, and I also wanted to show you color themes too. So this is a brand new. Well, this is relatively new and has cut down development time immensely. I've developed many models, and before there was color themes, I can't tell you how much time I spent just actually working on colors. So now you can just change color themes really quickly, because I personally absolutely hate these custom colors that they put in there. So all I need to do to create a theme is bring in the custom theme like so. And then now I have this custom theme, and there's heaps of custom themes on the community website. You can get them too. but this is just one that I've got on file. And so it's a matter of just quickly going through and adjusting these to the colors that you want. And I think this makes things just look far more compelling, especially if you get everything working together in the same theme. Cool. Okay, so that's custom themes. Now, the last thing I wanted to show to you, is row level security. Now, this is one of my, if I was to say, what are some of the key things that bring immense scale to your reporting? Row level security is right up the top there. There's many in Power BI, but row level security, if I think about how things work within an organization now, if you want to send out things to a range of different regional people or regional managers, but you don't want other people to see that information for other managers, you would have to go and create multiple reports, right? And it's very time consuming. With row level security, you do not need to do that. All you need to do is build this one model, one really detailed model, and then build this security model over the top of it. So when I say security model, it doesn't mean anything in here. It's just this, if you try and visualize it in your mind, it's just this thing over the top of your Power BI file, which enables you to provision certain people to see certain things. Now, the way you set it up is you come to the modeling section, the modeling ribbon, and you've got security up here. And we want to go into manage roles. And it looks like I've already set it up here. So, so what I'll do is I'll just show you how it's set up. But what you would we can actually run through one example. So what we might want to do, I've set up Florida, Georgia, and New York, right? And so if I wanted to create another one, which was let's go South Carolina. I wanted to create a new role for just South Carolina. South Carolina team, and then in that, so we've obviously got to say, well, who is in the South Carolina team? And so what I want to do is I want to go to location, and I want to add a filter, and I want to go states here, and I'm going to go South Carolina, like so. And I'm going to save that. And now we'll see. I just want to double check something here. What is South Carolina? Is that SC? Let's go location. Just want to make sure I set this up for you guys properly. Just give me a second. South Carolina. SC. Okay. So what I can do is I can actually, instead of going the full name, what I can do is get rid of that. And I can go state code equals SC. Cool. Okay. So now that we've put in this model, and you'll see here that I've done one for Florida, very similar, Georgia, New York, South Carolina. So you could do a range of the different, for every different location, you could put this in, or you could actually combine these, and it could be, you might want to divide this up to a couple of locations per row level, for example. And so once those are saved, what we can do is we can go view as roles, right, to test this out. And so what I can do is now, if I go view as roles, I can click through Florida, Georgia, New York, or South Carolina. And what's going to happen when I select Florida is the entire model is going to be filtered for Florida. Everything in the model. So you see now, this entire model, if I was to then go and publish this to people in Florida, then if I was to publish this, what I can do is I can set up certain emails to only be able to see this view. So only certain people will be able to see this view. And so they can get all the interactivity and dynamic features of the report, but then they can only ever see Florida. They can't see anything else. Like everything in this report, the inventory insights. So you see here that this is only showing Florida now. Everything is in Florida. And so that's how you can build one report and create a security model over the top that enables you to just showcase exactly the same thing, but to a range of different people, and they can't see other people or other information they should be seeing. And so the same can be, say we wanted to actually do it for the New York team. Again, the report will just filter for New York. So this is now New York information. And then again, South Carolina. So as I say, this isn't a very well-known feature because it's just, I guess, there's so many features in Power BI. It's hard to get your head around every single one. But this is seriously, it's pretty close to the top of my list in terms of how scalable you can make your reporting. I mean, you can select multiple as well. It's not just one you have to select. So it's just flexibility. It's just in terms of what you can do here, it's just immense, just seriously immense. Okay, so I've showcased quite a bit there. As I mentioned, I can turn that off. As I mentioned, I'm going to send this model out. Okay, so you'll be able to see it and work through it. And if you want to work through it during the replay as well, you can also do that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to wrap up the sharing the screen there, and I'm going to come back to just showing myself. Just give me a second. Cool. Okay, so just bear with me whilst I just make sure this is all set up right. Okay, so Q&A. Any questions? So I've wrapped up the demonstration portion, and now I just want to, if you've got any quick questions, I'm happy to answer those now. So just send them through to me on the chat, and we'll see if we can go through a few. Please let me know. Cool. Thanks. Thanks for calling in from Russia. That's pretty cool. Must be pretty late there, I would say. Really cool turnout as well. So really appreciate you all giving up the time. Having over 20 people to a session like this is great. And we only had about 100 registers. So hopefully a few more are going to watch the replay and hopefully enjoy it. So. Any questions? Because what we might do is I might wrap up pretty soon if there isn't at this point. So I'll wait another minute or so if any come to mind. Hey, no worries, Michael. Potentially, I think I'll have. There will be another session as well. So just, I think I might have one more session in this sort of mini series that I've run. But I actually really enjoy doing these sessions. So, so watch out for that on the email. Has anyone got any thoughts about some of the other content that's that's out there? So we've got something from Lotvi. How to use or include? How do you include or exclude while analyzing a specific product? I think that's actually a really, really simple answer, Lotfi. I think all it is you've got to create a slicer. You've actually got to create a slicer or an additional filter that enables you to filter on or filter off certain products or certain locations or something like that. So I think that's really the answer. It's not too difficult. It's just making sure your filters are set up in a way that you can achieve that. John coming in from Guatemala. Wow, that's awesome. That's really, really cool. What a man! It's so cool how international things can get. Is it possible to add year to date to the date slicer? Absolutely. You would have to add in a little bit of logic in there. But we don't have time to do that one at the moment, Powell. But you can. It's just. The logic would just change up a bit because year to date it's a more customized calculation than say total sales, which is what we divided up in the slicer. But that technique, as I mentioned, that technique that you use, that dynamic visual technique, you can you can put anything in there. You could have, and some of the examples I have on the Enterprise DNA site, and also some of the YouTube videos. I'm just trying to think which ones actually showcase that. But you can integrate any measure and based on a selection of a slicer. So that's all I can say there. But look, it's possible. Obviously, can't do it today because we don't have enough time. But I'll maybe try and do something similar to that in a follow-up webinar. So check out that or a YouTube video. So so just have a look out for that. Okay, so we've got a few more questions coming in. Just bear with me 1 second whilst I have a read of these. So Karen says, my data is coming from ODBC. Will filter tables work if I create them manually? Karen, I think that's pretty simple. I think that, yes, I think your filter tables should work if they come. It's more how it's set up in the data model. So if your data model is set up correctly, that's what's going to determine if your filter tables work or not. So just consider that. It really just depends on inside the Power BI environment how things are set up. Now, Michael, you've asked something similar to Power. Yes, you can you can determine what's inside a visual based on any slicer selection. You just have to build in the correct logic. That's what it comes down to. So you can. Nikolai, if you have, Nikolai is asking, 1 second. Can you work out average by month? Yes, you can, Nikolai. You can. What I would suggest is to check out. There's I won't showcase it now, but there's a YouTube video. Type into YouTube averages per day DAX, and that's the concept that we use per day is exactly the same concept that you want to use there, but instead of going by day, you want to go by month. So I would just review that technique and try and replicate it, but instead of just sub out the day and put in the month. Got a question. Will there be more videos on publishing the content? Potentially. What I like to focus on is more on DAX techniques, on how you can actually extract amazing insight from Power BI. But there's there potentially down the track. I will go over some of that stuff as well. Okay, so Kiran, you're saying you want to create a report using your data table is working, but I want to add inventory data. Yes, okay, so I'll send this out to you so you'll be able to do it. And John, you're asking where you can download the file. I'll be sending it out on email, so there's no need there. So it will come out to you. Okay, cool. Okay, so I think I might wrap it up there. Really good session. Really appreciate the feedback, the chat, and obviously giving up time and coming on. It's really awesome. Please watch out for the email regarding the replay and files that you can utilize, and also just watch out for more information regarding follow-up sessions and other material and resources that will be coming out through from myself and Enterprise DNA. Cool. Appreciate your time. Cheers. Talk to you later.